I found an injured fox. A few days later, it started sneaking into my bed every night. Then, the first week back at school, Claire Summers, the ice queen who seems to live to make my life miserable, cornered me by my locker, her face flushed, and whispered, "Could you maybe not hold on so tight at night?" My brain basically blue-screened. It had started on the last day of summer vacation. I spotted it by the dumpsters in the alley behind my apartment building. A little white ball of fluff shivering behind a cardboard box. At first, I thought it was a stray dog, but when I got closer, I saw the sharp snout and bushy tail. A fox. It was pure white, except for the very tips of its ears, which were black. It was ridiculously beautiful, but there was a nasty gash on its leg, matted with blood. It looked up at me, its eyes glassy and impossibly sad. "Hey, you okay?" I asked, crouching down, hesitant. What the hell was a fox doing in the middle of the city? It let out a tiny whimper and nudged my sneaker with its head. "Well, damn, I'm a sucker. Guess it's your lucky day," I muttered, shrugging off my jacket and carefully wrapping it around the little creature. "I'll take you home, get you patched up, but then you're on your own." "Got it." It whimpered again, snuggling deeper into the jacket. It was warm as hell. It's just me at my place. My parents work a few states over, so they rented me a small apartment for my senior year. It's great being on my own, but it gets quiet. The fox was surprisingly calm while I cleaned and bandaged its leg. It didn't make a sound, though its body went rigid when I applied the antiseptic. "Hang in there, almost done," I said, patting its head. Once I was finished, I ordered a pizza for myself, then poured some milk into a bowl and sliced up a few pieces of turkey for the fox. It ate like it hadn't seen food in a week. That night, I made a bed for it on an old blanket in the living room and went to my room. I woke up in the middle of the night, feeling a heavy, radiating warmth on my chest. I opened my eyes. Sure enough, the little white fur ball had somehow snuck in and was curled up on top of me, fast asleep and purring like a tiny engine. I started to lift it off, but my hand paused when I touched its soft, warm fur. Whatever. It was like a living space heater, and it was kind of nice. The next morning, the fox was gone. It wasn't on the blanket in the living room, either. My stomach dropped. Did it run off? Just then, I heard a key in the lock. My roommate, Alex, walked in holding a bag of breakfast burritos. "Ryan, got you a chorizo and egg." "Holy crap. What did you get a fox?" I whipped around. The white fox was sitting just inside my bedroom doorway, innocently licking its paw. "Found it last night," I said, breathing a sigh of relief. "Did it open the door by itself? Is this thing like super intelligent?" Alex stared. He reached out to pet it, but the fox dodged him and zipped over to my side, wrapping its tail around my ankle. "Wow, already attached to you?" Alex said, impressed. I looked down at it. It looked up at me, its eyes bright and clear. "All right, fine. I guess it was staying." I named her Marshmallow because when she curled up, she looked like one. Marshmallow was incredibly well-behaved. She never made a mess, somehow figured out how to use the toilet, and would even turn on the TV to watch Animal Planet. I was getting more and more convinced she was some kind of freakishly smart mutant. But she'd lie on my feet while I did homework, and when I was in a bad mood, she'd nudge my hand with her head. And every single night, she'd worm her way into my bed and fall asleep pressed against my chest. The lonely nights didn't feel so lonely anymore. Then school started. Senior year was a mountain of homework and test prep. The only thing that kept me sane was coming home and burying my face in Marshmallow's fur, which was getting fluffier by the day. She'd started acting a little weird lately, though. She kept rubbing her nose against my neck, which tickled like crazy, and making these little whining sounds like a kid trying to get attention. "What's up with you, Marshmallow? You in heat?" I asked, scratching the black tips of her ears. Her body stiffened. Then she gently bit my finger. No pressure, just sort of gumming it, and gave me a look that was almost resentful. "There's this girl at our school, Claire Summers. She's stunning, the kind of girl everyone secretly has a crush on, but she's got a personality colder than a freezer. She looks at everyone like they owe her $1,000,000, and she has it out for me. Freshman year, I accidentally hit her with a basketball and made her spill an iced latte all over her white shirt. She's never given me anything but a death glare since. To make things worse, she's the head of the student council's disciplinary committee, which means her life's mission is to bust people like me. Ryan, your jacket is unzipped. Ryan, your hair is touching your collar. Get it cut. Ryan, no eating in the hallways. I swear to God, this morning, During the assembly, the gym was packed. Someone shoved me from behind, and I stumbled forward, grabbing the person in front of me to keep from falling. When I steadied myself, I saw my hand was clamped on Claire Summers' shoulder. She wasn't wearing her usual high ponytail, and her long hair was down. I think I might have ripped a few strands out. I was dead. I braced myself for the write-up, the detention, the public execution. But she just spun around, her cheeks an unnatural shade of pink. Her eyes darted away from mine, and her breathing was a little ragged. "Are you okay?" I asked, snatching my hand back. She shot me a look so complicated I couldn't even begin to decipher it. It was angry, embarrassed, and something else. Something I couldn't name. "Just be more careful next time," she said, her voice a little husky. Then she hurried away, practically fleeing. That was weird. Did hell freeze over? During study hall that afternoon, Claire was making her rounds as committee head. She paused when she got to my desk. I was deep in a physics problem set when a shadow fell over me. I looked up and met her gaze. She was staring down at me, and for a second, her expression was unreadable. She quickly looked away, her fingers curling into a fist. "Ryan," she stammered. "Your desk is crooked. Straighten it." "Oh, okay." She walked away quickly, but I caught a faint, familiar scent in the air. It smelled a little like marshmallow. When I got home that night, Marshmallow was extra clingy. While I was trying to do homework, she jumped right onto my lap, curled into a ball, and insisted on resting her head on my wrist, making it impossible to write. "Marshmallow, come on. Knock it off." I lifted her onto the floor. She immediately climbed back up, gently tugging on my sleeve with her teeth and making that little whining sound again. "What's wrong with you?" I stroked her head. "You feeling sick?" She just nuzzled my palm with her wet nose, the tip of her tail flicking back and forth against my leg. It tickled. That weekend, I took Marshmallow to the vet for a follow-up on her leg. The vet said it was healing perfectly, but the vet said, pushing his glasses up his nose, "Has she been a bit anxious lately? How's her appetite?" "Yeah, a little. And she's been pickier with her food." The vet looked thoughtful. "Based on her markings, she looks like an Arctic fox hybrid, but the timing is all wrong. She might be going into her first heat." "Is she a boy or a girl?" "A female." I let out a breath. Thank God. But then another thought hit me. What do you do for a fox in heat? It's not like I could find her a date on Tinder. The vet chuckled. "For a domestic pet, you can just get her spayed. Solves the problem for good." "Spayed?" I looked down at Marshmallow, who was lying on my lap with a look of pure innocence. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Marshmallow seemed a little down after we got back from the vet. She wouldn't even eat her favorite chicken jerky. She just lay on her mat on the balcony, staring outside with a deeply melancholic air. I went over and tried to cheer her up. "What's wrong? You don't want to get fixed? We won't do it. I'll buy you a bunch of new toys. How about that?" She turned her head away from me. I picked her up. She struggled for a second, then went limp, burying her head in the crook of my neck and rubbing against me. "Marshmallow, what am I going to do with you?" I murmured, stroking her soft fur. "You're such a handful." She let out a tiny, sad little squeak. I bombed my first big physics midterm. Left the last 3 free response questions completely blank. I was feeling lower than dirt. When I got home, I didn't even have the energy to play with Marshmallow. I just grabbed a bag of chips and collapsed onto my bed. Marshmallow came over and nudged my face with her nose. I didn't move. She lay down quietly by my pillow for a minute, then started making soft noises, pawing at my arm. "Leave me alone, Marshmallow. I'm not in the mood." I buried my head under the covers. She wouldn't give up. Finally, she just climbed right on top of my chest, a significant furry weight. I threw back the covers and found myself staring into her glass-like eyes, inches from my face. She lowered her head and gently pressed her warm, fuzzy forehead against mine. It was a silent, perfect gesture of comfort. Midterm grades were posted. Claire Summers was number 1 in our year, of course. My physics teacher called me in her office for a pep talk. On my way back, I ran into Claire in the stairwell. She was carrying a stack of papers, probably taking them to the teacher's lounge. We were stuck. I stepped aside to let her pass. She stopped. "Ryan," she said softly, "those last few problems on the physics test. Did you run out of time?" I was stunned she was even talking to me about it. "No, I just didn't know how to do them," I admitted. "I have a notebook with some study guides if you want to." "No, thanks." I cut her off. "I appreciate it, though. Getting tutored by the class valedictorian? My pride couldn't take that hit. She pressed her lips together, then continued down the stairs. I watched her go, a weird, frustrated feeling churning in my stomach. There was a new kid in our class, Trevor. His family was loaded, and he acted like he owned the place from day one. He also seemed to have a thing for Claire, constantly trying to get her attention. She ignored him completely. So, naturally, he decided I was the problem, since I was apparently the only guy she ever willingly spoke to, even if it was mostly to yell at me. "Hey, Ryan, heard your parents aren't around. Must be nice, living all by yourself," Trevor said, cornering me after school with a couple of his cronies. His tone was dripping with condescension. "None of your business," I said, trying to walk past him. "Getting attitude?" "Huh?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Stay away from Claire." "Got it." I laughed. "And who are you to tell me that?" His face darkened, and he shoved my shoulder. "You think you're tough." "What are you guys doing?" A cool voice cut in. Claire was standing there, frowning at us. Trevor immediately transformed. "Claire, hey, nothing, just chatting with my buddy Ryan here." She didn't even look at him. Her eyes were on me. "Ryan, the principal wants to see you." I knew she was giving me an out. I didn't call her on it. I just nodded and walked away. As I left, I could hear Trevor laying it on thick. "Claire, you free tonight? I heard that new Italian place downtown is amazing." When I got home, Marshmallow was bouncing off the walls with excitement. She followed me everywhere, circling my feet. The second I sat down, she was in my lap, rubbing her head against my hand, demanding to be petted. "Why are you so hyper today?" I scratched under her chin. She tilted her head back and purred. After a minute, she started licking my hand. Her tongue was a little rough, warm and wet. Then, she gently nipped the tip of my finger. It didn't hurt, just sent a weird tingle up my arm. She looked up at me, her eyes watery and dazed, and I realized her whole body felt hot. My stomach dropped. I remembered what the vet said. In heat. This had to be it. I had no idea what to do. How was I supposed to help her? I vaguely remembered reading something online about warm towels or special toys. As I was trying to remember, Marshmallow jumped off my lap and trotted into my bedroom. I followed her and saw her leap onto my bed. She started rubbing against my pillows, then dragged my pajama, shirt over, curled up on it, and let out a soft, contented sigh. I stood in the doorway, my face burning. This fox was getting off on my scent. I bought her one of those plush toys specifically designed to calm down pets in heat. She seemed to like it, carrying it around everywhere, which settled her down a bit. But I noticed she had a new obsession. My worn clothes, especially my t-shirts. If I wasn't home, I'd find her curled up asleep in my laundry hamper. It got to the point where I had to hide my dirty clothes after a shower, or she'd steal them. Saturday afternoon, I was playing a video game. Marshmallow was on the floor next to me with her toy. Suddenly, she started acting strange again. The way she was holding the toy became suggestive. A broken, almost crying sound came from her throat. My hand slipped on the controller, and my character died. As the screen went gray, I saw Marshmallow's body trembling, her tail tucked tightly between her legs. She looked both pathetic and weirdly alluring. I quickly looked away, my heart pounding. What was I thinking? She was just a fox. Alex brought his new girlfriend over for dinner that weekend. The girl fell in love with Marshmallow instantly and begged to hold her. Marshmallow usually hated being touched by anyone but me, but this time she was surprisingly docile, letting the girl scoop her up. "She's so good. What's her name?" "Marshmallow," I said. "Marshmallow. That's so cute." The girl stroked her fur, and Marshmallow closed her eyes, looking perfectly content. During dinner, Marshmallow sat on a nearby chair, watching us. Alex's girlfriend tried to feed her a piece of chicken. "Don't," I said quickly. "She doesn't eat table food." Before I could finish, Marshmallow had leaned in, sniffed the chicken delicately, and then opened her mouth and took it. "What?" She was picky about the organic fruit I bought her, but she'd take meat from a complete stranger? As she ate it, I swear she glanced at me. The look in her eyes, was that defiance? After dinner, Alex and his girlfriend were watching a movie. I went out to the balcony to bring in some laundry, and Marshmallow followed me. I knelt and squeezed her cheeks. "Seriously? You ditch me for the first girl you see?" She made a soft, eep sound and butted her head against me, back to her usual affectionate self. I couldn't stay mad at her. After midterms came parent-teacher conferences. My parents couldn't make it, so my uncle came to fill in like always. Afterward, he clapped me on the shoulder. "Ryan, just do your best. Don't put too much pressure on yourself." I nodded. After he left, I saw Claire and her mom by the school entrance. Her mom was elegant and well-dressed, chatting with our homeroom teacher. Claire stood quietly beside her. When she saw me, her eyes flickered in my direction for a second before looking away. Suddenly, I felt like the distance between us was a lot more than just a GPA. My mood soured for no reason. I wasn't hungry when I got home. I just made some instant ramen. Marshmallow came over, sniffed the bowl, and walked away in disgust. She ate some of the cat food I bought her. I think she thought she was a cat, then grabbed her plush toy, jumped onto the couch next to me, and started playing by herself. Normally, the noise might have annoyed me, but tonight, listening to the soft rustling, watching the warm little fur ball next to me, the empty feeling in my chest started to fade. I reached over and scooped her and the toy into my lap. She froze for a second, then relaxed, settling onto my legs without moving. "Marshmallow," I whispered, stroking her fur. "I'm glad I have you." That prick Trevor still hadn't given up. He somehow found out where I lived and showed up outside my building on Saturday. I was on my way to take out the trash, wearing slides and basketball shorts. I looked like a mess. Well, Ryan, this dump is where you live." Trevor was leaning against a ridiculously flashy sports car, a cigarette dangling from his lips. I ignored him and walked toward the dumpsters. "Hey, I'm talking to you." He cut me off. "Be smart. Stay away from Claire, or you'll regret it." I stared at him. "Are you mentally ill?" "Screw you." He raised his hand to shove me. Suddenly, a white blur shot out of the building's entrance and started barking furiously at Trevor. It was Marshmallow. She'd followed me out. Now she was standing in front of me, teeth bared, fur bristled, growling at him. She looked vicious. Trevor jumped back. "What the hell is that thing?" "She's mine," I said, pulling Marshmallow back a step. "Get lost, or I'll let the fox have you." Trevor looked from Marshmallow to me, muttered something under his breath, and stalked off. Psycho, keeping a thing like that. I looked down at Marshmallow. She was still growling in the direction Trevor had gone, her tail straight in the air. "Good girl, Marshmallow. Protecting your dad," I said, kneeling to rub her head. She finally calmed down, turned around, and licked my face, making soft whimpering sounds as if to comfort me. A warmth spread through my chest. The days ticked by, and finals got closer and closer. It was just me and Marshmallow holding down the fort. Every night, she'd sneak into my bed and press up against me. I got used to the warm, comforting weight on my chest. Whenever I had a nightmare or was too stressed to sleep, I'd just stroke her soft fur, listen to her steady breathing, and feel myself calm down. She was my own personal tranquilizer. One night, something felt wrong. I woke up in the dark, and the furry ball I was holding was gone. In its place was a warm, soft body, smooth skin. Long hair was tickling my arm. My eyes shot open. Moonlight streamed through a gap in the curtains, illuminating the bed. There was a person in my arms. A girl. Her skin was so pale, it practically glowed. A cascade of dark hair spilled over my pillow. And her ears, were they pointed? She was curled up against me, her face buried in my chest, sound asleep. That profile. My heart stopped. Claire Summers. How could it be Claire Summers? Where was Marshmallow? My mind was a chaotic mess. My first instinct was to push her away, but when my hand touched her bare shoulder, it was like an electric shock. I pulled back instantly. My movement must have disturbed her. She mumbled something, snuggling even closer. One of her legs shifted, coming to rest over my waist. I was frozen solid. All the blood in my body seemed to rush south. This was bad. This was very, very bad. She hummed a lazy sound. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. Our gazes locked. The air turned to cement. The sleepiness in her eyes vanished, replaced by sheer panic and disbelief. With a short scream, she launched herself out of my arms, yanking the comforter with her. She scrambled to the corner of the bed, clutching the blanket to her chest. Her face was crimson. She pointed a trembling finger at me. "Ryan, what? What are you doing here? What did you do to me?" Was she serious? "This is my house. My bed." I grabbed a pillow to cover myself, my own shock turning to anger. "Claire, What the hell are you doing in my bed? And where's Marshmallow? When I said Marshmallow, her body went rigid. Her eyes flickered away, and her grip on the blanket tightened. An insane, impossible thought struck me like a bolt of lightning. I stared at her, my eyes zeroing in on her ears. In the moonlight, they were distinctly pointed, with tufts of black fur at the tips, and they were trembling. You. My voice came out as a dry rasp. You're Marshmallow. She bit her lip hard and refused to look at me. But her ears, which had turned a shade of beet red, said everything. The clingy, affectionate little fox I had rescued, the fur ball that snuggled up against my chest every single night, was the ice-cold, hypercritical queen of our high school, Claire Summers. Either the world had gone insane, or I had. The room was dead silent, except for the sound of our breathing. I watched her huddled in the corner, wrapped in my comforter, her smooth shoulders and collarbones exposed. Her hair was a mess, her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were filled with a mix of shame, panic, and the sheer desperation of being caught. All the weird little details from the past few months suddenly clicked into place. The faint, sweet scent on Marshmallow was the same as Claire's. The pleading look in Marshmallow's eyes was the same one Claire sometimes gave me before quickly looking away. Marshmallow's frantic behavior during her heat and Claire's recent, unnatural blushing whenever I was near. And the vet said Marshmallow was a female. My throat was tight. I could feel blood rushing to my head. So, I managed to speak, my voice hoarse. This whole time, it's been you. Her head snapped back toward me, her eyes welling up with tears. So what if it was? She yelled, her voice cracking. You think I wanted this? Why didn't you say something? How could I? Hey, Ryan, I'm actually a fox. Please don't treat me like a monster. Tears streamed down her face. Or should I let you kick me out so I could die during my first heat? Her first heat. The vet's words came crashing back. All of Marshmallow's, no, Claire's, recent behavior. Her clinging to me, those weirdly intimate nuzzles and licks. It was all because she was in heat. A wave of anger, of feeling like I'd been played for a complete fool, washed over me, mixed with an indescribable sense of absurdity. Are you messing with me, Claire? I threw the pillow aside and moved closer. Was it fun? Watching me act like an idiot, hugging and petting a fox. Petting you. She shrank back, tears flowing freely now. No, I couldn't control it. 4 fox spirits, our first heat. We can only survive it by being near our destined mate. Otherwise, we die. Destined mate? Me? I froze. Destined mate? What the hell is that? My head was spinning. Claire, you need to start making sense. This was crazier than me getting a perfect score on the SATs. Clutching the blanket, Claire spoke through her sobs. It's a trial we go through when we come of age. If we can't get through the first heat, our powers dissolve and we die. The only way to survive is to find our destined mate and stay near them. She glanced up at me with tear-filled eyes before looking down again. I never thought it would be you. So, you knew from the start? You only got close to me because of this. My chest felt heavy, like it was filled with cement. At first, yes, she admitted in a small voice, then quickly looked up, desperate to explain. But not later. You were so good to me, you fixed my leg, you let me sleep next to you. I couldn't help it. Her voice got quieter and quieter, and her blush spread all the way down her neck. I looked at her, this completely different version of the school's ice queen. All her intimidating coolness was gone. She just looked like a scared, cornered girl. No, a scared, cornered fox. My anger started to fade, replaced by a tangled mess of emotions. The sting of being deceived, the shock of the truth, and a strange, protective feeling from knowing how much she had relied on me. So what's the plan now? I ran a hand through my hair, trying to sound calm. We had to figure this out. Claire curled up tighter. The heat, it isn't completely over. I still need to be near you. Like before, I raised an eyebrow. Her face turned an even deeper shade of red. She practically buried herself in the comforter. Yeah, an awkward silence filled the room again. I looked at her, huddled in a ball, and thought of how Marshmallow always clung to me. My resolve softened, but then I remembered that every night I wasn't holding a fox, but Claire Summers. I swallowed hard, feeling my own temperature rise. First, turn back, I said, looking away. I can't think straight like this. There was a soft, rustling sound, and a faint noise like bones popping. I risked a glance out of the corner of my eye. The girl in the bed was gone. In her place was the familiar white fox, wrapped tightly in my comforter, only her wet, timid, and ashamed eyes visible. Crap, why was the visual impact of that even stronger? Now every time I looked at the fur ball, my brain would just autofill the image of a naked Claire. This was going to kill me. I took a deep breath, trying to force the images out of my head. Listen, Claire, I said, trying to sound firm to the ball of fluff. First, this is a lot to process. I need time. The bundle shifted in acknowledgement. Second, until I figure this out, you stay in fox form. And you're not allowed on my bed anymore. Got it. The comforter flew back. Marshmallow. Claire poked her head out and let out an anxious whimper, her eyes pleading. It was the exact same look she gave me when she wanted jerky. I hardened my heart. Not negotiable. You can have the living room couch or a dog bed. Her ears drooped, and she buried her head in her paws, looking like the most pathetic, abandoned creature in the world. I sighed. The compromise was that she could sleep on the rug next to my bed, but I had to give her a blanket that smelled like me. Fine. It was better than sharing a bed. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel Claire in my arms, see her blushing face. And I couldn't stop thinking about her words, destined mate. What was my life? I finally drifted off just before dawn. It felt like I'd only been asleep for a minute when I heard noises from the living room. I shot up, the memory of last night jolting me fully awake. I threw on some clothes and walked out of my room. Claire was back in human form, wearing one of my bigger t-shirts. Where did she even find that? Her back to me as she fried an egg at the stove. Morning light streamed through the window, outlining her slim waist and long, straight legs. My t-shirt ended right at the top of her thighs. I just stood there. She heard me and turned around, her face still a little flushed from sleep. She wouldn't meet my eyes. You're awake? I made breakfast. The scene was surreal. The untouchable Claire Summers, wearing my shirt, making me breakfast in my kitchen. Nobody would ever believe this. At the table, the awkwardness was so thick you could cut it with a knife. We both just ate, staring at our plates. So, I finally broke the silence. What about school? Her fort paused. I can go. It's better during the day as long as I'm not too far away from you. So, all those times you busted me for discipline stuff, was that because... No, she shot back immediately, her face turning red again. That was my official duty. I watched her frantic denial and felt a smile tug at my lips. So maybe her official duty had a little something to do with getting my attention. And Trevor, I said, remembering that problem. Her brow furrowed, and her voice went cold. I'll make it clear to him. He's to leave me alone, and he's to leave you alone. In that moment, she was back to being the formidable Ice Queen. But now, seeing her like that, I just thought, she was kind of cute. We left for school together. To avoid any drama, we walked out of the building one after the other. She walked ahead, and I followed a few paces behind. The sun was bright, catching the light in her ponytail. I watched her slender back, my mind a jumble of emotions. What a mess. Sure enough, Trevor was waiting at the school gate, holding a huge bouquet of roses. When he saw Claire, he lit up. Claire, good morning. These are for you. Claire walked right past him without a glance. The smile on Trevor's face froze. Then he saw me walking up behind her, and his expression turned thunderous. He caught up to Claire, blocking her path. Claire, what's your problem? Why are you ignoring me? She stopped and looked at him coldly. Trevor, I don't believe we're friends. Please stop this childish behavior, and please stop bothering me and my friend. As she said the word friend, she glanced back at me. Trevor followed her gaze to me, his face contorting with rage. Ryan, this is your fault, isn't it? I stuck my hands in my pockets and strolled over to stand beside Claire. I gave Trevor a lazy smile. Wasn't she clear enough? She wants you to get lost. Trevor's face turned purple. He pointed at us. You too. You'll regret this. He stormed off. Claire let out a small sigh of relief and mumbled, Thanks. No problem. I watched Trevor's retreating back, a nagging feeling that this wasn't over. The rest of the day was quiet. Claire was the focused top student. I was the slacker, just trying to get by. During breaks, she would happen to walk by my desk, dropping off a notebook or murmuring. The teacher said this equation was the most important part. My classmates were floored. Dude, Ryan, did you put a spell on her? Why is she suddenly being so nice to you? Spill it. Are you two a thing? I just laughed it off, but a strange warmth spread through me. Being cared for by her. It wasn't so bad. That night, Claire was back in fox form, trotting at my heels. While I did my homework, she lay obediently on the rug, her eyes fixed on me. The look was unmistakable. I want snuggles. I ignored her. She started pawing at my pant leg, making tiny, pathetic whimpers. Claire, that's enough, I said, finally putting down my pen. We agreed, no bed. She whimpered again and rested her head on my slipper, going completely still. A perfect picture of a sad, abandoned puppy. I sighed. I was too soft for this. I picked her up and placed her on my lap. Just for a little while, I warned. She immediately curled up, completely content, her tail sweeping softly against my leg as she purred. As I stroked her fur, the last of my frustration melted away. Whatever. What was the point of arguing with a fox? Even if that fox was secretly the most popular girl in school. On Friday, Trevor and his crew cornered me in the alley behind the school. Look at you, Ryan. You actually managed to hook up with Claire, huh? Trevor sneered, a cigarette hanging from his lips. It's none of your business. I stayed calm, sizing them up. There were 4 or 5 of them, and none looked friendly. It is my business. Trevor dropped his cigarette and crushed it under his shoe. I don't like it when people touch my things. Looks like I'll have to teach you a lesson. He gestured, and his friends started to close in. I clenched my fists, ready for a fight. The odds weren't great, but I wasn't going down without one. Just then, a white blur shot past me like a rocket, slamming into one of the guys trying to sneak up on me. It was Claire, in fox form. She stood in front of me, teeth bared, a low growl rumbling in her chest, her eyes locked on Trevor and his friends. Crap, it's that damn fox again. Trevor yelped, but his fear quickly turned to anger. Get him. Take care of the freak animal, too. They were about to charge when a soft white light started to glow around Claire. As Trevor and his friends stared in horror, the light faded, and Claire Summers stood before me in her school uniform, her face ice cold, her eyes sharp. Trevor, she said, her voice quiet but firm. If you want to touch him, you'll have to go through me first. He and his cronies were completely stunned. A monster, one of them screamed. They all turned and ran, tumbling over each other to get away. The alley was suddenly empty, except for me and Claire. The tension left her, and she swayed, her face pale. Are you okay? I rushed to support her. Forcing a transformation in front of people must have taken a lot out of her. She leaned against me, shaking her head. I'm fine. Let's just go home. I heard later that Trevor and his friends were never quite the same after that day. They ran out of the alley and apparently had a complete psychotic break. They told anyone who would listen that Claire Summers was a fox demon who could appear out of thin air and had glowing green eyes. At first, people thought it was a pathetic excuse for losing a fight. But they were so terrified, so convinced, that eventually everyone started looking at them funny. Trevor lost all his arrogant swagger. He became paranoid and jumpy, flinching at any girl in a white dress and screaming if he saw a furry scarf. His parents had no choice but to pull him out of school and send him away for intensive therapy. His friends weren't much better. They just vanished from our lives. The days leading up to finals were a pressure cooker. I was staring at a practice test, ready to tear my hair out. Claire was sitting quietly on the couch, reading a book, glancing at me every so often. Ryan, she said suddenly, her voice soft. Don't be nervous. I looked up at her. The lamplight softened the lines of her face, making her look incredibly gentle. Who's nervous? I grumbled. She didn't argue. She just put down her book, walked over, and stood beside me. Then, hesitantly, she reached out and gently ruffled my hair, just like I always did to her when she was Marshmallow. You're going to be fine, she said. The tips of her ears were red. She quickly pulled her hand back and returned to the couch, pretending to be absorbed in her book. I just sat there, the phantom warmth of her hand still on my head. The anxiety that had been choking me all night miraculously disappeared. Damn it, who could possibly resist that? The weather during finals was perfect. After I walked out of my last exam, the sunlight was bright, and the air was filled with the shouts of relieved students. I took a deep, long breath. I looked up and saw her waiting under the big oak tree by the school gate. She was wearing a simple white dress, and the sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling her in light and shadow. She saw me and waved, a brilliant smile on her face. I walked over and, without thinking, took her hand. It trembled slightly in mine, but she didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers curled around mine. "How'd it go?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "I think I did well enough to get into a good school in the same city as you." I couldn't stop the grin from spreading across my face. "Who said I wanted to go to the same school as you?" she sniffed, turning her head away, but the smile on her lips gave her away. "Hey, Marshmallow," I whispered, leaning close to her ear. He should be long gone by now, right? You wanted to help you out with that." Her face instantly turned scarlet. She pinched my hand hard. "Ryan, shut up." But she didn't let go. We ended up at the same university in the same city. We got a small apartment off campus instead of living in the dorms. Claire didn't have to hide anymore. She could finally put her things next to mine. When she was in a good mood, she'd let her fox ears and tail pop out and wander around the apartment. She called it her relaxation mode. When I was coding or playing games, she'd often transform in her fox form, hop onto my lap, and sleep for hours, a warm, furry ball of contentment. She was my personal, breathing stress ball and hand warmer. On weekend mornings, she'd wake me up by swatting me with her tail or tickling my face with her hair. I'd open my eyes to either a close-up of a fox's face or her own, a sly, knowing smile on her lips. "Ryan, I'm hungry. What do you want?" "Chicken. And you?" "Claire, it's too early for this. Get off, ouch. Are you a dog? Stop biting." "I'm not a dog. I'm a fox." Sunlight filled the room, mingling with our laughter. From that day on, my little fox and I lived our own shamelessly happy life together. End.